It's not often that you have the whole of the internet unite in agreement over one film. Over the years, we have had to endure a countless amount of bad movies, and most of the time, the audience have seen it from the trailers. We've seen it months before the movie ever is shown in the cinema. However, if there was one director that you should put your faith in no matter what, if there was one person that you can put your trust in, one person that has proved on multiple occasions that they know how to deliver a solid movie, it would absolutely be Christopher Nolan. But apparently that's not the case. When the trailer for the Odyssey came out, everyone on the internet gathered together, criticizing the trailer, the tone of the movie, the casting decisions, everything under the sun that you can get from a 2-minute video. They were criticizing this movie from left to right, all in agreement. Like, honestly, I've never seen so many people have such strong opinions about a movie from the trailer. A 2.5+ hour movie, you're literally having such strong opinions from a 2-minute video. So the movie finally came out, and literally on the first day, he proved everybody wrong. All of everybody's speculations, all of everybody's critiques about this movie was completely wrong. Christopher Nolan literally proved once again that he hasn't lost his touch at all. So here's why you and the rest of the internet was wrong about the Odyssey. So we're gonna go over the main critiques that people had over this movie from the trailer, and we're gonna discuss whether they were right or whether they were wrong. So let's go. Hello, my name is Joseph and welcome to the Chill Out Zone. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe for more videos like this. I post very regularly, so yeah, let's get into it. Also, let me know what you thought of the movie before and what you now think of the movie now that you've seen it. So one of the main critiques about this movie was that it didn't really feel like Greek mythology. People instantly saw the trailer and they were shocked that it was so much grounded than the original story should have been. People instantly questioned the tone that the trailer presented us with. I guess people wanted it to be like Troy, where there was mythical creatures everywhere, but it wasn't like that at all. People instantly jumped to conclusions and thought that Christopher Nolan was going to completely strip away all of the supernatural and mythical aspects of this movie, that it was going to be completely grounded in realism. Now, to be fair, there is some sort of precedent for this. Christopher Nolan is known to do things grounded. Like, for example, the Dark Knight trilogy. We know that, of course, Batman is a comic book character, and the Dark Knight trilogy, even though it was absolutely amazing, it was a lot more grounded in reality. It wasn't really comic book accurate. But despite that, I think we can all say that it was probably some of the best superhero movie, probably the best superhero trilogy so far that we've had. So when you actually watch the movie, you would find out that this is half true. Yes, it definitely is not like Lord of the Rings, or is not like Troy. It definitely is a lot more grounded and it is a lot more restrained. However, the mythical aspects of this movie is definitely still in this film, but it is earned, it is gradual. There is a build up to it, so that when we finally see these mythical parts of the movie, it is earned. You get that shock factor. This movie is very layered and very intentional about the look and the feel of this movie, and I feel like it seamlessly handles all of the mythical elements of this movie as well as the normal ordinary stuff as well. Rather than throwing mythical creatures and magic at you every 10 minutes, he actually takes the time to develop and build the world around us. Now, to be fair, I can understand why this slower and more grounded approach isn't going to work for everyone. Like, if you have read the original story, if you have watched Troy, I can understand that your expectations may be based in the mythical element of the story, and that's completely fine. However, Christopher Nolan absolutely knows what he's doing. Yes, his approach is a lot more grounded. However, the core elements of the story is absolutely shown in this film. Sticking with the tone of the film, people were very apprehensive about the CGI and about how they were going to handle all of these mythical creatures, because in the trailer you do see a glimpse of the Cyclops, I believe, and you also do see the giants as well. So people were wondering how they were going to do it. But once again, you watch the movie and it was amazingly handled. The use of practical effects just tells us time and time again that when you take the time to do things practically, it is always going to look better in the final cut. Yes, the advancements in CGI can be good, but you need to use it sparingly. You should never place an over-reliance on these things. We have seen over and over again in the Marvel universe and in a lot of other movies that too much CGI does not look good. So the fact that it was based in practical effects, in the sense of realism, like this movie looks so much better because of it. Literally, some of the main scenes that stand out to me was the Cyclops scene and also the Cersei scene when he turns all of Odysseus's soldiers into animals. Like those scenes, there is magic, there is mythical creatures, and it was handled amazingly. The practical effects makes it stay in my mind. It is literally living in my mind rent free, and I know it is for you too as well. Like those two scenes were great, and it was handled with such delicacy and with such skill. It was so amazing to watch. Another critique that dominated the conversations regarding this movie was the choice of certain actors to play certain roles. People were of the opinion that these A-list actors were prioritized because they were A-list actors, because they were big names, as opposed to them actually fitting into the actual characters that they were meant to act. People questioned the diversity in these characters, like Zendaya playing Athena, again, who was a Greek goddess. People questioned Travis Scott, who was in the movie. He was playing a Greek, but he was obviously black, so people, wondered about that. Lupita Nyong'o's character was also questioned, again, because she was meant to be Greek, but she was obviously black. So people questioned all of this, which I can kind of understand, but if we're being real, no one in this movie was of Greek heritage. So it just seemed that people just didn't like the fact that they were colored individuals. People clearly weren't too fussed about the white American characters who were playing Greek characters, even though they weren't of Greek heritage. It just seemed that they only really wanted white characters. Like that was as far as they were willing to care about how accurate these characters were meant to be. Another major casting discussion people had was to do with Elliot Page. So if you don't know, Elliot Page is a transgender man. She was a woman, and she obviously now is depicted as, she's depicted as a soldier, even though she's like 5'2". People were complaining that she shouldn't be portrayed as a soldier, considering her frame and her stature, that it was completely unrealistic for somebody of her frame to be a Greek soldier. Now, I can understand, but I still feel like all of these problems were so minor. Not only that, but when you actually watch the movie, you actually find out that Elliot Page was barely in the movie, so it actually wasn't that deep. Not only that, but she literally dies instantly. Like, she wasn't fighting, she was never shown to dominate any other soldier in this film, so that point is completely irrelevant. Not only that, but Athena, Lupita Nyong'o's character, like all of these people barely had lines in the movie. Like, they literally took up maybe 5 to 10 minutes combined out of a 2.5, almost 3-hour movie. So once again, all of these major problems apparently were actually very minuscule when you actually watch the movie. I feel like this next critique is probably one of the biggest ones, and this was the faithfulness to Homer's original story. Along with the trailers, we also find out that Christopher Nolan wasn't actually taking the source material from Homer's original story, but he was taking it from another version of a story that was heavily influenced by Homer's one. And once again, this version was a lot more, it was a modern remake of this story. And this fair was also highlighted by, again, the fact that Elliot Page, who is a transgender woman, was in this movie. People thought that this was going to be way too modern, that this was going to be another woke movie that was just going to be garbage. But once again, this wasn't the case. Like I said before, Elliot Page was barely in the movie, and this movie absolutely was very much grounded and had no woke signaling at all. Not only that, but people went in an uproar when they found out that people were going to be speaking in a normal American accent. People thought that they should have been speaking in a Greek accent, which, to be fair, I can understand that. But when you're adapting a story that is literally thousands of years old into a modern 21st century audience, there's going to have to be some changes. And for me, I don't really feel like it was a big deal. The fact that they were using an American accent, or they said words like daddy or dad, like, I just don't feel like it took me out of the movie as much as people thought it would have. Like, yes, 100%, Was it the most accurate thing? No, of course not. However, was it completely bad? Did it take you away from the movie? I strongly doubt it. And I believe that the majority of the people who are watching the movie, the people who probably would have heard of the Odyssey, but they weren't die-hard fans, I feel like they weren't taken out of the movie. Not only that, but the costumes also weren't accurate to them being Greek. The boats weren't of a Greek architecture, but I feel like all of these things, I feel like they were just so minor. Like, I feel like at this point, they were really nitpicking. Now, to be fair, on the other hand, you could say that each individual change probably wasn't too bad, but it was the combination of all of them that actually made a drastic change from the original. And if you do feel like that, I can kind of understand. With a lot of infamous stories, there's always going to be diehard people who have a lot of passionate emotions and passionate opinions about this movie. However, in reality, these things are very, very minuscule. It absolutely did not take away from the amazingness of this film. If you felt like it did, definitely leave a comment and let me know your thoughts. Yes, I can admit it wasn't the most accurate when you consider the original context of the story. However, Christopher Nolan chooses to focus on things that I believe are a lot more major in a movie, and that was the themes of the consequences of war, the toll that it had on all of the characters, especially Odysseus, and what it meant for the wider world, the theme of perseverance and longing for home, the temptation to abandon your humanity when you are a soldier. Like, all of these themes are, for me, central and pivotal parts of the movie, and I'm so glad that Nolan really decided to focus on those parts because they're so much more important, and honestly he executed it amazingly well. But yeah, watching the movie and especially seeing the amount of money that this movie is making, it is clear to see that this movie is very well received now that it has come out. It is making massive waves in the box office, which is what I love. But I mean, again, it's Christopher Nolan. Like, I feel like he has shown us time and time again that this guy knows how to make a movie. You can actually put your trust in the guy. All of these apparent controversies were actually so minor when you watch the movie. Christopher Nolan decides to focus on the main things and not really pay too much attention on the minor things, and I feel like that is exactly what you have to do when you are a good director trying to tell a good story, trying to tell a multi-thousand-year-old story to a new and modern audience. But yeah, that's my opinions on the movie. I personally love this movie. I would probably give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. I don't think it's Christopher Nolan's best work, but I definitely feel like it's up there. I definitely feel like it's top 5. But yeah, that's all for today. Once again, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. Let me know how you would rank this movie. Let me know what you think of this movie as well. Where would you rank this movie out of Christopher Nolan's other movies? But yeah, that's all for today. Once again, like and comment for more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.